I would guess that many of us can probably relate to Martha, going about the many daily tasks that we have, while at the same time, just like her, desiring that God would visit us and be present in our lives. We read here how Jesus has befriended this family from Bethany. No doubt he stayed with them often when he was down in that area visiting the nearby city of Jerusalem. Sisters Martha and Mary and their brother Lazarus. The gospel indicates that on this occasion it was specifically the invitation of Martha that Jesus was staying with them. We have Mary sitting and listening to Jesus at his feet. Lazarus isn't mentioned here this time. Maybe he was out doing other things. And Martha is busy about the different household tasks to try to ensure that Jesus' stay would be a comfortable one. And just as we might react when it feels like we're the one doing everything and that somebody else is just sitting there not helping, Martha appeals to Jesus to have Mary help her. Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me by myself to do all the serving? Tell her to help me. But then Jesus seems to rebuke Martha, saying that Mary's choice is actually the better one. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. So where did Martha go wrong? Isn't it good to show hospitality to somebody who shows up at your home? Especially if that somebody happens to be Jesus. Isn't it good to serve God? Yes, it is. We see this also in the first reading, where the Lord comes to visit Abraham and Sarah under the guise of these three men. So Abraham and Sarah, when they see them, they immediately invite them to stay. And they bring to those men water to bathe their feet. They have them sit under some shade, while Sarah goes back into the tent and prepares the rolls and cheese and milk. And Abraham goes out to the herd to procure some fresh steaks. Abraham then, he is there at the men's side, kind of like Mary was with Jesus. And Martha, she's back in the tent, getting everything ready like Martha was. And their hospitality is good because it's rewarding. They're told by these men that they will soon have a son, Isaac, a son that God had promised them and that they had waited years to receive. But Jesus says Mary has chosen the better part. But when you hear that, don't think that Martha's part is bad. Because when we use the word better, we're saying it's better than something else that's good. Jesus isn't saying that Martha's serving is bad. It's most certainly good. To serve God and others is very good. God requires us to do things for others. But what is even better is to allow God to first serve us and fill us with his life. In these written words, we may not always be able to hear the exact tone of Jesus' voice. So we might imagine he's speaking to Martha, Martha, Martha. But I fancy that it's said in a much more loving way. Martha, Martha, you were anxious and worried about so many things. Because she sure was. She had so many worries. She was, in this moment, feeling like she had to do it all. She was alone. You ever feel that way? Her desire was that Jesus would be in her life, but she had so many preoccupations, so many other concerns that were taking her attention. Lord, do you not care? She says in almost exasperation. Maybe we feel that way too. Like God is taking care of other things, of other people. But what about me? Jesus, do you care about me? I'm doing all these good things for you. I'm trying so hard, but things don't always seem to work out. Do you care about me? Well, Jesus is pointing out to Martha and to us today that while to serve and do those things are very good, he doesn't desire that we go about our good tasks each day in such a way that stresses us out, that makes us miserable, that makes us irritable to our family or our friends. Because in that case, it kind of undoes all the good that we do through those works. Jesus isn't asking us to go about life in that way. God doesn't want you to have days filled with anxieties and worries. I know you, my children, he says to us. You are anxious and you're worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. And when everything seems to be going wrong, maybe nothing's going right, there's really only one thing that's out of place. You miss the Lord. You miss the Lord. That's why we need to take moments out of the busyness of our day to sit with the Lord and to let him fill you back up with his life. That's why he insists that we take a day of rest every week, that we come here to Mass. He doesn't want us to be worked to death, but we need this moment to encounter this foreshadowing of heaven and be in his rest. We need to pause during our day and pray to rest before the Lord so that we can then continue those good things. It is good to serve, but it is better to serve when strengthened by the life of God that we receive when resting with him. This gospel passage that we have is just a snapshot of the life of this family of Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. So where do their lives then go from here? Well, all three of these siblings are venerated today as saints. St. Mary, St. Lazarus, and yes, St. Martha. In fact, St. Martha's feast day is only a few days away, July 29th. Martha's great glory comes a little bit later in the Gospels, when she has a very simple and strong statement of faith in Jesus, right after the time of her brother Lazarus' death. She says, Lord, I have come to believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God. And for Martha to be able to say something like that in that moment, when her brother has just died, it certainly shows us that Martha has in a greater way begun to do exactly what Jesus said she should. For she wouldn't be able to say that had she not been spending time at the feet of the Lord, rather than being consumed by her worries. She knew that there was need of only one thing, whether in life or death, to be with the Lord. But, of course, St. Martha didn't stop all of her activity, all of her tendencies to doing good things for others. Tradition hands down to us that she was likely part of an early mission to France, where the gospel was brought for the very first time. And the miraculous legends that are told as part of that story have led some to call St. Martha the wonder worker of southern France. So if we desire our work and our lives to be fruitful, like the lives of Martha and Mary, choose also the better part, the one thing needed, God himself.